All right, let's do an example of application. So now we're going to talk about applications when we're talking about rational functions. Okay, so I'm going to read to you an example. So this is an application problem, and we're going to dissect it and answer the questions that they have, or do what they want us to do. So it says a cleaning services cleans houses. For each house call, for each house call, the cost to the company is approximately $40 for cleaning supplies, gas, and labor. Okay. So cost per household or house call equals approximately $40. Now, and that's again for cleaning supplies, gas, and labor. The fixed monthly costs, there's a fixed monthly cost of $300. And that's for phone service, advertisement, and depreciation on vehicles. Okay, so that's the information, right? Now it says, write a cost function in dollars for X house calls. Okay, so we've got our fixed cost and our variable cost, right? So our cost function, C of X, X represents the number of house calls, and the cost is going to be in dollars, okay? So it's going to be what? It's going to be the fixed cost plus the variable cost. So in this case, let's do the variable cost first. That's going to be per house call, okay? So for every house call, it costs $40, okay? And so that's going to be, we're going to represent that as, oops, let's drop the dollar sign for a moment. So because we're just using X. And so this is going to be 40X plus the fixed cost, which is just going to be $300. So this is the monthly, this is the cost per household. Okay, so this would be the cost function, so that's part A, right? And it's in dollars for X house calls, right, per month. Now, B says, write the average cost function, C bar of X, for X house calls per month. So this is a cost function that's based on number of house calls. Okay, now if I want to get an average, right? So how do I get the average? Well, that's going to be the cost function right? Divided by what? The number of house calls per month. So it's going to be the cost function. This is the cost function. This tells me, hey, how much does it cost me per house call on a monthly basis, But then if I want the average, I'm going to take the cost function divided by the total number of house calls per month. Okay, just so we understand. Part A, this is the cost for each cleaning based on the number of house calls, right? So the cost to the company is based on the number of house calls. The average cost function is based on the cost function, what it costs to do the cleaning for each house. So it's dependent on the number of houses. But then this is saying, hey, we're going to take this and divide it by the total number of house calls per month to come up with an average cost per house call. Okay? So then this is going to be equal to, oh, we don't want the dollar sign there. This dollars are assumed. So it's going to be 40x plus 300 divided by x. Okay? So that's going to be our average cost function per month based on X house calls per month. Okay. So let's simplify this. So this would be equal to 40 plus 300 over X. Now, now C says, okay, evaluate C bar at what? 5. So C bar of 5, so we're going to put 5 in here. So that would be 60. So 40 plus 60 is 40 plus 60 is 100. So that's going to be, the cost is $100. Okay. What about C of 20? C bar of 20. Okay. So what does this mean here? This is the average cost per house call if we were to do 5 houses per month. So it'd be $100. What if we were to do 20 a month? What would be the average cost per household? Well, in this case here, if we put 20 in here, that would be what? This part here would end up being 15. And then 15 plus 40 is 55. So that would amount to, would be about $55 per month, per house call. So if we did 20 house calls per month, our average cost per household would go down to $55 for each house call. What about 30? C bar of 30. Now what happens to the average cost? Well, the average cost now goes to what? 50. And what about C bar of 100? Let's say we do 100 house calls a month. That means now our cost per call for the month goes down to $43 per house call. So we could see right away that the more house calls we do in a month, the lower our costs. If we break it down to costs for doing business per house call. Now, let's say the maximum for this company is 160 calls per month. Okay? So if the maximum is 160, let's just look at this. The maximum is 160, which means the minimum cost, so far would be what? It'd be 40 plus 300 divided by 160. So 30 divided by 16. So it's going to be approximately what? Right, so if we do this, this is going to be a little less than 2. So it's going to be a little less than $42, right? Per house call each month. If they did 160 house calls each month. Now, it says, however, if the number of calls were to be unlimited, what would be the average cost? What would the average cost approach? Okay, so now this is end behavior. If we look at this as just as a rational function, what happens as x goes to infinity here? Well, this is going to 0, so it's approaching $40. So the minimum value, the minimum cost that the company would have would be $40. So doing 160 calls per month is pretty good. I mean, you're already probably maxed out, right? I mean, doing more, so basically doing more houses isn't going to save you much more money in cost, right? So if you're doing 167, 160, 150, you're still doing well. I mean, even at 100, right? If you're doing 100, your cost is at 43. So there's the law of diminishing returns, right? All right. Have a great day.